All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. My name is Shahara Thrash. I'm the Recreation Program Manager with the City of Douglasville Parks and Recreation. We are excited to present this important conversation about the need for fathers in the special needs community with calculated pathways. We've been partnering with each other for about the past 5 or 6 months, providing additional services to the community, including camps, training for our summer camp staff to ensure that they're able to work with children with all abilities. And so tonight we're just really happy to partner with you guys tonight and really excited to listen to the conversation. So I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Janet Jones-Jordan of Calculated Pathways to facilitate the conversation.
All right, thank you so much, Shahara, and thank you to Douglasville, the City of Douglasville Parks and Rec, for allowing us to be here on tonight. Again, I am Janet Jones-Jordan. I am the president and CEO of Calculated Pathways Incorporated. I am also a diversity practitioner, and just a little bit about our organization, and we're going to go into introducing our panelists for this evening. So Calculated Pathways, we are a nonprofit organization, and we are dedicated to supporting children, teens, as well as adults who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and also other special needs as well. So we do provide life and social group activities, recreational activities, specifically for families and low resource communities. And so additional services that we offer include summer camps. We'll be partnering again with Douglasville this summer. For the month of July, we'll be doing a summer camp that will range between the ages of 5 and 18. We also educate faith-based organizations on how to develop more inclusive environments within their programming. We provide diversity, equity, and inclusion, strategic training and planning for organizations and businesses across the country. We also train law enforcement and first responders on best practices for engaging those with autism, especially in high-stress situations. So for more information, please visit calculatedpathways.org, or feel free to support us and consider making a donation. And so at this time, I am honored again to serve as moderator for this very important conversation with some amazing fathers and men who are leading their families and their communities and just being present and available for their children and the children in their community with special needs. And so I just want to share just a little bit of information here. According to the Department of HHS, which is the Health and Human Services, approximately 20% of U.S. children under the age of 18 require special need accommodations or services, and that can be due to any physical, developmental, behavioral, or emotional conditions. And 65% of those children need even comprehensive services in addition to prescription medications. And so, of course, this poses a significant, challenge, struggles, worries, and concerns for their parents. And fathers in particular, sometimes they may feel overwhelmed as they struggle to find solutions for their loved ones. And so having informed fatherhood practitioners, number one, is important. It can also provide support for fathers and caregivers to help them understand the needs of the children and help them close that gap as it relates to health equity. And so because most research is on the experience of parents of children with special needs, it has a focus focus has always been on mothers. And so our hope today is that we are able to shed some light on just how important and impactful fathers, male caregivers, whether it's brothers, grandfathers, uncles, whomever in the lives of these families. We want to show that they are supported and that we need them. And we want to make sure that they're able to enjoy a rewarding journey of resilience. So at this time, I'm going to have each of these wonderful men to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump into a panel discussion. For housekeeping, I would ask that you guys just please hold your questions until the end. We will have an opportunity to be able to answer questions. And also, we want to be respectful of one another. And so we ask that even in your questions that you respect HIPAA laws and not share too much personal information about your children, or if you have any issues with any organization or anyone in particular, that you be respectful and not share names of organizations or, schools or anything that you may be having issues with. So at this time, I am going to, I'm just looking at the, my camera here and who I see first. So Yushay, if you can actually introduce yourself and just tell us why you're here. Thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, my name's Uche Bird. I'm from Chicago. I live now here in Decatur, Georgia. I have a 5-year-old son who's diagnosed with autism. Bright little boy, love him to death. One of the things that I think is important for people to know is that's him in the background right now. It's really that decided when I started talking to engage. But one of the things I think is best that people can know or learn as fathers is that whether a kid has autism or not, he needs both parents. And father's presence change everything. But I do think that sometimes as a father, you have to advocate for yourself as well as your child. And that's one of the biggest things I think I can give anybody any advice, is that you're going to have to speak up, especially as a Black father, to let everybody know that you're in the room and that you just can't look over me as you advocate for your child. So I think one of those things to know, I went to school in North Carolina, A&T. I work as a patent examiner, engineer, and I think that's all I got.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Marcel, looks like you're next.
Hello, I am Marcel Brown, originally from Chicago, Illinois, currently residing in Douglasville, Georgia. I am a detective with the city of Douglasville. I have 2 kids, 7-year-old son, Aiden, who is on the autism spectrum, as well as epilepsy. And then my daughter is 5, she's neurotypical. I tell you, he was diagnosed at 3 years of age, and you wouldn't tell. You can't tell him he's different. You can't tell him anything's different with him, or that kid is infectious. Anyone who comes into his space is just overwhelmed with him. That's just the love. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've taken. In my line of work, I typically see, if you would say, the evil in people. You know what I mean? If I'm called out, it's something bad that's already happened. You know what I mean? That's just my line of work. And I look at things almost or typically different than a lot of people. I'm not that optimistic on things. So with him, he changed everything. He changes. He makes it brighter. Then I have a beautiful wife who definitely is in the education field. And I think we just know our strengths and weaknesses in our marriage. So it's almost like he needs this, he needs that, he needs that. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's run with it. Let's go. I'm backing her play 100%. And we do bounce things off each other. Again, she's in the education field. I'm in law enforcement. So I see things differently as well. And raising him to be a young Black male in this world with being on the spectrum just adds a total different spin on how I look at things, the outcome of things, and how I plan for his future to look. I won't be here forever. So we definitely need this type of talking. We need resources. We need the village. We need to pull it all together to allocate and have all the resources that our children would need to be successful when we're not here anymore. So that's it for me.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Ryan Hurley.
Hi, Ryan Hurley. I am a father of a son named Jackson, who will be 18 at the end of the month. Jack was diagnosed at 2, so going back a ways when so much has changed now, the landscape on ASD and advocacy and just awareness overall. So really glad to see where we've gone since his diagnosis. You know, I look at my son as with him being profound, nonverbal, and a multitude of other medical challenges, I feel that Jack is going to be a trailblazer, like a lot of our children will be for those behind them that are coming up. It doesn't seem like autism is slowing down, unfortunately. So we have to have those like Jack that are really going to start paving the pathway for individuals that don't have a voice, that need those advocates, that need their parents. Fortunately, Jackson has a wonderful mother, great wife, and I know my place. I definitely ride shotgun, probably 99% of the time when it comes to what Jackson's needs and cares are, IEPs, etc. I do have a voice. I will say that I definitely do, but I give the baton to my wife and really support her in what she needs in all her knowledge that she has. Again, with caring for Jackson, I travel quite a bit for my job. I work in the clinical trial space as a global alliance manager. I guess a fancier word for vendor manager. So I am on the road quite a bit. But one of the things that I think my wife and I have really developed is the way to communicate, and even if it's unspoken, knowing when Jack is being a little irritable, needs a break. She comes in, I come in. That's almost 25 years of marriage of knowing that the unknown word that we can pick that up. And I really think that, we have a good balance right now. Jack is in a much better space. It wasn't easy for roughly about 8-9 years of him just trying to find his center. And that took a lot of doctor's visits, a lot of trials with medicine, etc. We've definitely found a good spot, and he's certainly hitting his stride. And again, I think what we're seeing here now with Douglasville and calculated pathways, I think it's great. We need to continue to advocate. We need to really be those trailblazers for the kids that are going to be turning into adults, that are going to need that care for as long as we're here. My fear is what happens after I'm gone, my wife's gone, etc. We do have a typical daughter, but we certainly don't want to put the burden on her. So it's things that we're still learning daily, and we're trying to find a pathway for a son, but we're also looking to broaden our arms and kind of welcome in others, whether it is other special needs, other people on the spectrum, et cetera. But we're definitely advocating to really find an adult space now and open that up more broadly. So hopefully, I live in Ackworth, that we'll be able to follow the footsteps, Janet, that you started developing with Douglasville. So thank you.
But thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you. All right, next we have Joe. You're muted.
Yeah. My name is Joe Jordan. I am the husband to Janet Jones Jordan, and I'm new to this. Janet and I have been married a little over 2 years, and the reason why we're married, Janet will definitely say it was Jeremiah, because that was the last test. So once I met Jeremiah, we clicked, and ever since then, we've been very close. I've learned so much from him, and one of the things that I've learned from him is that he never holds a grudge. He'll be mad 1 minute, and the next minute it's like, hey, how about that macaroni and cheese? Are we, we'll go from there. It's never, I'm still mad or I'm still upset. He gets over it very quickly, and that's something that that has inspired me. One of the other things, this week, he learned how to tie his shoe. And for some, that might be a very insignificant thing, but for him, I think that was a major milestone, and he did it. And I was instrumental in helping, and I'm so thankful for it. So I too ride shotgun behind Janet because she's so knowledgeable, and I am along for the ride, and it's been a wonderful journey. So I'm looking forward to the rest of our lives, planning. I do stay up at night thinking, when we're not here, what's going to happen to Jeremiah. But, we're starting to put things in place, and that's we look forward to seeing how things will manifest.
All right, thank you. Clancy? I think you're on mute. There you go.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Clancy Mahmoud. I'm Janet's nephew. I have an 8-year-old daughter who's on the spectrum. She's high functioning autism, and I would say the biggest thing that I've learned from my daughter is probably patience, because like the detective, I used to be a suicide preventions officer at a correction facility, and I'm all about solutions and orders and all that kind of stuff. And when you have a child that's, it takes more time to comprehend things, you definitely have to slow your world down and move at their pace instead of yours. And my wife, being the nurturer, she's like automatically good at that. But me, I gotta go to the corner and just be like, okay, it's like getting ready for a boxing match. But you get on your knees and you sit there and you explain it and you say it again and you say it a different way, you say it again, and you say it another way, and eventually it gets across. And that's one thing that I'm not gonna say I've mastered it, because I haven't. I don't know if I ever will, but with my daughter, I do better.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Listen, let me just say that nobody is mastered. Our children, whether they're typical or not, they don't come with a guidebook. And so we just have to kind of navigate the changes, the challenges, and teen years are very, very interesting. Let me say that. And so I just want to say thank you all so much for being here today. Again, for those of you that have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We will get to some questions toward the end of this conversation. But I want to start with you, Ryan, and just I know that you indicated that Jackson was diagnosed at the age of 2, but tell me what made you guys seek out a diagnosis for Jackson, and when did you discover that he had a disability?
Well, there's something to be said about mother's intuition. So that is the first indicator. Definitely looking back now retrospectively on what were the triggers, just simple things like flapping. He was twisting his hands and his feet when he was a baby. He was delayed with communication quite significantly. And at the time when he was born in Jacksonville, Florida. And then at 6 months, we moved for a job to Denver, Colorado. And in Denver, didn't know this at the time, but unfortunately his health was impacted due to the elevation. So didn't really know if that had something to play in with it or whatever, but I'd really say just some cues that with some play dates that you'd see other kids progress further, and boys are typically slower to get up to meet those milestones versus girls. And seeing other boys that were progressing a little bit faster than Jackson, it gave us, there were just some question marks over our head. We left Denver again for another job about a year later. So he was only 18 months old, and he also had RSV, pneumonia, and was very sick in the hospital. It was pretty tense 10 days of being in the hospital. He came out of there with, he went into the hospital with about 17 words, and that's small for someone at 18 months. And when he came out of the hospital, he hasn't spoken a word since. So that's when we moved to Atlanta, fortunately. And he's healthier now being in Atlanta, if you can believe that. But it was really just, I'd say, his mom's gut saying that I think we need to go ahead and test him for this. And that, as you can imagine, as a dad, is a gut punch in and of itself, due to the fact that I had all these plans in my head already, that he's 18 months and I already had him playing soccer, football, baseball like his dad. He was supposed to be better than me. And that's what I had in there. So again, you have to pivot in a direction, you have to be supportive. As much of a gut punch that it is, Clancy, I think you said it best, like you drop it to your knees and you're finding ways to say it and say it again. And I think that's the same thing. You do get punched in the gut, but you do have to get up and keep going. You do have to say things one way or another way to make sure that you understand or they understand, et cetera. So it was really the signs that I would say are atypical of what you read about. And again, it's really trust your gut. I'm sure that might seem a cliche, but it was 100% rock solid. She was right. So I give that to her.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. Shay, I saw you smiling as he was talking. Is there something that you want to share as it relates to your son and when you first discovered that he had a disability?
Yeah, I was smiling because he said the plans and how you had these plans going to the future and things like that. Playing soccer, you're gonna be better than me. Yeah, I was smiling at that. But regarding me, it was interesting. Sometimes I take a different position because when I found out, I was kind of relieved, like more so like, whew, because I remember the day that I realized something was a little different, and I kind of been pointing it out, but people were kind of saying, don't say that. And, people that I could find and trust to was really trying to make me seem like I shouldn't wish that. And I was just saying like, nah, I think something's a little different. We came back from Chicago from a Christmas trip. We go the Christmas, and it was December. We were coming back from Christmas. So that means his birthday's in March. So he's like 20 months, 18 months. Everything I had taught him from that trip, before that trip, I just noticed it would take a lot for him to start saying or pointing out things. From that point, then the pandemic kind of hit. In that time, I was, kind of saying, hey, and then his daycare kind of noticed a little bit before the pandemic had told me he wasn't speaking. However, he could count to 20 and none of the other kids could, and he can put together like puzzles. I would give him a puzzle and he'll put it together. And then when the pandemic like hit and shut down, a lot of things more start coming out with sensory issues and stuff, which was, to me, it was okay. Whatever he give, that's what I'm working with. It didn't really gut punch me like others more than, oh, now I know what I have to work with. So I do understand people's when they hear it, how it can hurt them, kind of. And I think a lot of fathers it do, but with me, I think I had got past the hurt. Even growing up, I saw people in different situations in the neighborhood where parents just ignored and didn't get kids what they needed. And as we were adults, there's some people I knew I grew up with that, because parents kind of ignored it particularly in our community, they don't have certain things. So with me, I was kind of the opposite, like, oh, this is what we need. This is what's going on. Let's make sure. So it definitely is a situation that once you hear, I'm a father, I'm a dad, I knew a community that supported me. I just made sure I supported my son. So that's kind of how I take it and how we figured it out.
All right, thank you. Marcel, let's talk about your son. When did you first discover that your son may have had a disability?
So for us, it was around 2-3 years old. I would say we began just normal. He was hitting all his milestones, et cetera, but we started noticing what they diagnosed as mild colonic seizures. We would see these little jerks he would do, and that's where it started from. Like, man, what is this stemming from? Went to several doctors seeking that out. Then we started seeing a regression, a total regression in language. I mean, he was flourishing, singing, knowing alphabets and things like Coco Melon, and he would sing all of that. He would love singing. He still loves singing. He loves instruments and music. That's his thing. And so from that point, I think one of his doctors was like, hey, I'm noticing how he's saying some of his words with the speech. And I think you all should go and see, I think they suggested the Marcus Institute, the Marcus Center. So we went there and they did run tests, and that's when we found out. And it was, like you said, it was a total change. Like, you think of being from Chicago, knowing how I was growing up, I lived, not to say he's not living, but I was a little rambunctious and I was into this and into that. And to think that, hey, this is what my kid is going to do. Because I joined the Marine Corps, 2 deployments to Iraq, and I'm not wishing that my son joined the military, but if he wanted to, those things. And now it's like, total pause, stop. What does his future look like now? Will he get married? Will he go on prom? Will this happen? Will that? What does his future look like? And it's, as the days go on, it's almost like, let's enjoy. We know the future has to happen. It's here, but let's enjoy now. Let's implement what we need to implement. Let's try to get these resources and let's just enjoy and love on him. Like I said, he's infectious. His love and his smile can just make you forget everything. And same way, you tell him one thing, Aiden, don't do this. Aiden, don't do that. Okay, sorry. And he turns around a few minutes later and he does it again anyway. But it's just, so it took a while. It was some denial and it was some, why me? Why us? And I think I told my wife one time, why not us? I don't think we're bad people. He could have been born to someone who would have abused him, mistreated him. You see what I'm saying? Our children could have been given to some people, bad people. So why not us?
Yes.
Clearly God trusted us with these children. So that's how I ended up looking at it at the end.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to move to the next question. And I want someone to share with me, because as you see and understand that autism is a spectrum, there are no 2 people who are alike. Their diagnoses are different. There are different types of autism. And so we have to be aware of the differences in each of our families. As you can see, all of the families who are represented here on today, they have children who are on the spectrum. And so when you think about that, and even if you yourself know someone on the spectrum, or you may be on the spectrum, you will understand that there are certain differences in each and every person. And so it's important that resources are tailored specifically, for these families, for their specific conditions, because it ranges from very, very, different abilities. And so I want to just, if anybody can just jump in and just share how important is acceptance and early intervention. If someone want to just take that question and answer that, I just wanted to hear from you guys.
I can jump in. I think early intervention I think that makes a big difference in the life, regardless of what we're talking about, autism, we're talking about disabilities, anything, whether it's a kid that's running in the street with a gang. Early intervention is always best for anything. Or if a kid had a reading problem, a math problem, you get it early. So if you're sick and you have diabetes, early you can catch it, so anything. But in DC, where I was living, where my son got diagnosed, there were 3 things. If you hit your milestones and then the milestones stop, it starts an automatic, these 3 triggers. And one is seeing an audiologist, seeing ear, nose, and throat, and then early intervention calls. So those 3 things made a difference compared to, I see when I got down here, I noticed that the early intervention, sometimes every parent didn't necessarily get it. Automatically, the pediatrician put you in this new track to help your child. So early intervention, some people may not, but believe in it, but ABA therapy actually is helping my son compared to some others. I've seen them pull away and I can understand why they did. But my son, by leaps and bounds, compared to some of the other kids that I've seen him come in with, is really thrived. And I do think with the early intervention, also being hands-on with early intervention, not just, they'll watch the kid or they'll do these services and then you just bring them home. You have to implement and work with them, the speech therapist, the OT, or whatever your child needs being there. So I think early intervention, especially when the state supports it, and I really mean like the state is really engaging and you go to a place, they make sure your child has their needs. I think it's really key and really important.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know what ABA therapy is. It's applied behavioral analysis therapy. It's a form of therapy that just helps children and adults, just learn how to cope with different things. There's been so much controversy around ABA. And I just want to say that, for a lot of families, ABA is what has gotten them to the point of just being able to do things that they were not able to do before. And so I just, just want to throw that in and just say that. And I applaud you all for even, seeking out resources and help for your children, because you have to understand that when you recognize that your child has a need, yes, early intervention is very, very key in that space. Joe, is there anything that you'd like to add about early intervention and just being providing support for your children?
Well, one of the things that Jeremiah had help with therapy was walking down steps. And I noticed after going to the therapist for a period of time, he can walk down the steps, one step at a time instead of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I can see clearly that type of intervention or that type of therapy works. And for whatever reason your child is having trouble even holding a pencil or writing, or that ABA therapy works very well. So
yeah, and it definitely helps, with behaviors. So it really makes a difference. And even though that there are some people who are so against ABA therapies, and there have been some bad reports out there, and I'm not going to dismiss any of those. But I will tell families is that if you find the right one, sometimes even with any provider, you just have to find what fits for you, your child, and your family. And so I want to, Clancy, if I want to go to you for a second, what are some of the things that you found to enjoy about having a child with special needs?
I think the way that she processes everything, because we did ABA therapy too, and she's high functioning. She's high functioning, so for the most part, she says ABCs and she's able to talk and stuff. But there's like certain things that you she just you just have to help her along with, and that part, like I said, making me having to sit down and explain things, it's made me feel like I'm a better teacher than I thought I was. And then the fact that some of the questions that she asked, she is just her thought process. It's not mine. It's not my son's. My son is 2 years older than her. He's 10. And me and him would trade, jokes about each other. Like we talk about each other, but I can't do that with her though. With her, it's everything is literally literal. And then, I got to be careful. Like if I say it's raining cats and dogs, she'll stare out the window. I'm like, baby, no, hold on, wait, don't do that. It's not raining cats and dogs for real. It's never mind. And so you got to watch what you say and watch how you act, because she interprets it literally, And so that's been I think a good conditioning for me, especially in public, because sometimes I can get carried away with myself or whatever, and now it's like my daughter keeps me in place.
Yeah. Now, Marcel, tell me a little bit about some of the things that you've learned, while on this journey with your son.
Patience. Patience and is the biggest thing. Secondly would be, there's more than the old saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. We've been programmed and we know that, hey, this is the way I was raised. This is how we do things. This is the way you teach. This is the way. And no, it's not. People have different ways of learning. And that's one of the biggest things to get across to my son, is just finding out how to get that information to him in a way that he can understand it, in a way that he grasps it. That goes back to how we just spoke on too, that early intervention in ABA. It also is the therapist and then knowing your kid, because you have to pair your child with that right therapist, that right person who understands and gets. I'd say Aiden right now, don't let him fool you. He will pull he will let him get away with it. He will figure out a way to get away with it. Aiden, it's time to clean up. He'll start cleaning up for a minute, then he'll hit you with the, oh, I'm so tired. I need to lay down. And if you don't know him, then you're like, oh my gosh, the poor baby is tired. He needs to lay. No, don't believe that. He knows how to, he will get over on you, right? So you have to, I think we started with a few different therapists and they didn't. And right now, the ABA therapist that he has, it's like they were meant, it's perfect. That's it right there. And so, like I said, it's just getting it to him. And I think Mr. Jordan spoke on earlier. A couple months ago, Aiden tied his shoes. Like his fine motor skills aren't there. To see him tying his shoes, I was floored. Like, wow, did he just really tie his own shoes? Those small things, and just how to get that information to him. And understanding it may take repetition, but he got it. He understands it. So that's been the greatest thing on the journey. Like I said, just him. Nothing really will get that kid down. Like I rarely will see him, like, no matter what you did, you making red choices, Aiden. Sorry. And then he's right back happy. No hard feelings, any of that. So he brings out the soft side of him, definitely.
All right, wonderful. Ryan, I want you to talk a little bit because I know that for most of the fathers, caregivers that are on this call, on this webinar, Jackson, he presents himself very differently. I don't think that there are anyone else on this call who has a child that's profound. And I want you to just kind of shed some light on our audience about what it's like, in your home and things that you do to really support Jackson, and just give us more information for those who may not know about profound autism.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I mean, to put it in perspective, Jackson's going to be 18 in 2 weeks, and mentally he's that of like a 3 or 4-year-old. So that's always hard, right? When you got a grown man, he's got a beard. Now it looks pretty smooth, I'd say, but when people ask and I share about Jackson, they're like, well, what's he into? What is his thing, right? Is he a savant, et cetera? And, the answer is like, no, he likes Sesame Street. He likes his movies. He likes to stand up while eating and looking into the backyard, but he likes to walk around. I give it to my son. He gets it honest. He's got a lot of giddy up. He just doesn't stop moving. And I'm the same way. I don't really like to be idle. So, in our house, we're always doing something. I think the biggest challenge that we have with Jackson, and again, goes back to something I heard, that when you fail, you'll have to fail again and get back up and fail again and get back up and fail again and continue that progress. With Jackson, his mom and I try and stay strategic. We try and stay ahead of him. And the moment that we're not ahead of him and we're behind him, we've lost. So Jackson had a tendency to elope, which means that he would abandon an area at a moment's notice for no reason, not for any sort of fight or flight mode or any sort of sense of urgency. It would just happen. We lost him twice for collectively about an hour and a half. So 30 minutes the other time, an hour in the next, and we couldn't find him. Fortunately, he was found. So we thought we had the house locked down. We thought we had all the doors covered, the alarms on, et cetera, and we don't. So we're constantly on our toes, right, with him. I feel like we're better off now, but even as I say that, I know in my head, I gotta stay humble and be like, I gotta stay in front of him, or otherwise it's going to happen. So the way that he does present himself and what he likes and what we like, they don't mesh. So we coexist to a degree. because I'm not watching Sesame Street with him. He does that on his own, but we do try and actually sit down and watch some movies together. Does he watch them the whole movie? Nope. Goes back to him having this giddy up. He's like, I'm good after 11 minutes. And then he's on to something else and going that route. Trying to find things he does like has been a challenge. I will say that with him being 18, one thing that I do is that we started supporting delivering groceries. I know we're not supposed to say who or any organizations, but he comes along with me, and I make him use the app and actually deliver the groceries to the house, to the door. Loves it, absolutely loves it. And again, that fills a gap for a couple hours. And he, not only do I feel like he's getting a sense of doing something, he seems to enjoy it. He gets to use the electronics, which he can use. He has a talker that is a voice for him, but he also loves my phone and loves hitting Starbucks and stuff like that. But he knows how to use the app. And he does. He likes to take the picture, swipe, it's delivered, and then move on. And I'll tell you that one of the proudest moments that I have in being his dad is when I go to someone's house and we're delivering something and they actually greet you at the door, which a lot of people don't these days. This is an opportunity to share something about Jackson for those that don't know. And so even then I'm advocating and I'm saying, hey, this is my son. He doesn't talk, so he's not being rude, but he has autism and he's just helping along. And every person that I met is floored. And I said that we're not doing this for money. We're actually donating it. So we don't need it. They're like, here, please donate this. Here, please donate that. So even if it's just 30 seconds, it's a great moment to share something about Jackson and bring them into his world just for a moment, but then also share with them that, wow, look at what's going on. Like, look at what he's doing with his son. So even though with him being profound, we do try and find a way to integrate him into society to a degree. I think someone on the chat said, ABA and just going to a grocery store, 100%. You have to go ahead and do that. They have to be part of this world, no matter what that is, right? And unfortunately, people might not accept what's around them, but tough. That's where we come in and that's where we step in. If they don't like it, then we have a problem. But with them, they need to be in those sort of situations with typical individuals. And that's what we do for Jackson. And I think you had also said it with his therapist. His therapists do the same thing. They throw him right into typical situations, stores, movies, etc. And again, Marcel, I think it was you that said it. It's definitely a marriage of the therapist and my son, and it's wonderful. And was it wonderful right off the bat? No, definitely some trial and error. Like, I will do everything to keep his therapist so we can continue this on until whenever. But we do try as much as we can in the house and outside of it, just to give him that sense of knowing what the world is like beyond when he is in his own world. I have no idea what that's like. So I have to always bring him in mind.
Yeah. And that's what inclusivity is about, and awareness. And so by you taking him out into the community and having an opportunity to really share with people. I know Jeremiah, when he was younger, would have meltdowns in certain stores that we went into. And this was before ABA therapy for him. And people would look at you and they give you dirty looks, or they say, oh, you're not a good mom. And if he was my child, I'll do this, that, and the other, and it used to bother me so bad. And I would leave sometime in tears. But what I learned as I began to advocate for my own child was that when those situations happen, and even now, if something happens, I take that as a teaching moment to share with people, because people don't understand. They don't understand. It still baffles me that in all of my speaking engagements across this United States, I can still go into an area and talk to people about autism and they still have no clue. Even though there's 1 in 36 children that are diagnosed in the United States each and every year, 1 in 45 adults that are diagnosed each and every year, there are still so many people who have no understanding about autism. So it's important that we become advocates, even for those who are autistic. Become advocates for yourself. Teach your children, if they are able to advocate for themselves. And so, Ryan, for parents like you and JJ, and what you do for Jackson is simply amazing. So I just applaud you guys on that. So I just want to ask any of you, and any of you can answer this question. What are some of the challenges that you face as a parent of a child with special needs?
I'll answer it quick. I think one of the biggest challenges I face is actually believing her sometimes when she say things, because like you said, like Marcel was saying, like he'd be cleaning up and he just want to lay down because he'd be like, I'm sleepy. And it's like, no, you're not getting out of this kind of thing, Sometimes, it's hard to distinguish between when they're actually trying to weasel out of something and then when it's actually like they're actually feeling something or whatever. And that's one of the things I have a difficult time with, because sometimes I'm like quick to be like, you're not getting out of this, all right? And just again, corrections officer mentality sometimes. It's like, look, get to work, and I really have to, sometimes I have to calm down, which my wife does a great job of being the bridge between that, because, she usually tells me that for real, but I think that's one of the biggest challenges is having to believe her versus like my son and my baby, who like when they express pain, it's like I can pretty much tell that, but then, so yeah, that's my thing.
All right, thanks for sharing that. Anyone else?
Well, this past couple of days, we had a issue with Jeremiah. I think sometimes when he's idle, he gets into something and can't help himself. So one of the things that we had got into the roll of toilet paper, and he's very creative. He wants to make things, but there's toilet paper everywhere. And, you ask him, well, why did you do that? And he really doesn't know. But I think, once he gets fixated on something, he just can't help himself. And so I think one of my challenges is trying to find a balance with working from home and working with him. Because when he's idle, that's when he gets to himself, and he'll create something, but it'll be all over the place. So.
Yeah, we just have to feed into those creative juices and find ways to rechannel them in other directions. Anyone else want to share anything? And not just talk about the challenges, but I also want to hear from you guys, because some people think that, men, they put on this front, a lot of times, but do you ever feel overwhelmed with what's taking place, with your children and in your home, in your marriages or in your relationships? I want someone to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so just real quick to back on the challenges, I think one of the challenges for me would be him also just like advocating for himself, or just being able to, if somebody did something wrong to him, that he could be able to at least express that, him going to school or going dropped off at this place or that place, and him trying to almost relay that to me. That's a challenge for me and a concern. It's just, hey, did somebody do anything wrong to you? Can you articulate that or get that point across to me? I think right now with his APA therapist as well, we're teaching him red and green choices. Red are bad choices and green are good choices. So Aiden, you're making a red choice right now. And I think he's starting to get that. The other day he went to a camp and a little kid took his toys from him. Was taking all the toys from him. Me being me, well, why didn't you take it back? If he snatched some toys from you, why didn't you take it back? And Aiden tells me, because that would have been a red choice. I was floored. I couldn't say anything else. In that small transmission of conversation, he understood what a red choice was. And he told me that I didn't take the toys back because that would have been a red choice. I couldn't say anything else to him. I said, okay, carry on with your day. But another challenge is the energy, keeping up with that boy. He goes from sun up to sundown. I don't care what we do. I don't think we can tire him out. And me and his mother have to almost go in shifts. Like, hey, look, you got him. I got him. He will continue to run. I think we have a great village though, with our parents, with heck, our neighbors even. You know what I mean? So they're we do have those moments where we can, hey, can y'all watch Aiden and Addison for a moment so we can just go out? And I'm thankful tremendously for that village that we do have, for that opportunity that's there, that people love them the same way, from my sister to my brother-in-law, that yes, they'll watch them. I mean, my brother-in-law take him to an Alabama game. I don't know why, but he likes Alabama. And I mean, just that moment of peace. So thanks to the village, definitely is tremendous. I applaud everybody in our life. And I just, yeah, that's that village. Just that energy.
Yeah.
Because I tell you, that boy has, if we could bottle up that energy and sell it, man, we'll be millionaires.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I have here. They often say it takes a village to raise a child, and it does. And so I know, as you were just speaking about how your village has supported you, can anyone else talk about their village of support and how that village has supported you?
Yeah, I'd love to. And I'll be quick. It's great, Marcel, that you have family there and friends, and I think that's awesome, and that's great to hear. For my situation, and maybe some others, like, you don't have family there, so this is where we go back to resourcing. Like, are there resources out there that you could have someone stay with your child while you and your spouse or partner want to go away for a night or the weekend? And it's there. And it's definitely, you do have to do some digging. And I'd give that, all the credit to Jackson's mom, JJ, of really finding out creative ways to reconnect and take a beat. And whatever that is, if it's a night out, or if it's a weekend, or whatever the case may be, those resources are there. Do have family close by, but again, not as helpful as like an immediate need. I mean, at moments it certainly happens, but I think that the biggest thing is that you have to plan it, and this goes back to the strategic part of it. You can't do something spontaneous. That just can't happen, unfortunately, unless you have that level of support in your neighborhood and with your family. I love that you might be able to do that. I think for others that can't, you do have to be strategic about it and find those resources that are available. A lot of them are reimbursable, where you would pay and then you get reimbursed by the state. So there are more resources out there for those that don't have the family unit in that village. You might have to create your own. And I would say that, again, Marcel, I'm giving you a lot of kudos, because again, to the therapists, that's your village too. Like, you're using them as your village, an extension of your family as well. And again, it might seem silly to say, but as large as the autism community is, it is one big family. So and that goes beyond autism. That's other special needs as well. But definitely, you might have to create your own, but it's definitely there.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, when you're going through challenges, how do you cope? How are you taking care of yourself? What does self-care look like for any of you?
Well, I kind of want to go back to what you were saying, and then to answer this question with challenges and kind of being overwhelmed and coping. So I think one of the main challenges that I see is as Ryan was saying, resources, but providing resources and things that your child needs. That is a challenge itself. More than a child is the challenge, the things that you need to get to your child. So I'll give an example of a situation that happened with me, real personal. I want to make sure that everything that maybe I didn't have or experience I didn't have, I want my son had the same experience. So I got tickets to the Falcons game. Do everything to the procedures that they have. I don't know if anyone knows that, but the Falcons stadium actually have a sensory room in there.
Mm-hmm.
So but I also know that my child has his diet is much better, but he only eats certain things. So that means I have to pack a lunch, bring that in there, have it in my backpack, boom. I called the football stadium. I let them know I'm coming. All these things were at a park. For me, where I get overwhelmed, where I have got overwhelmed at is when I'm coming to the facility and I did all these things, and then people start questioning me. And I kind of think it's kind of unfair that I have to say something about my child, like his medical stuff, just because you don't necessarily know the rules. That situation that's kind of took me back, where I can't blow up because I have my child here, my 5-year-old son here. But it really brought tears to my eyes that I have to explain this to this person. And I already told them the rules, but because they don't know the rules, I have to humble myself so that I can make sure my son has this experience. It was because, I'm 6', 300 pounds. So, things a little different when they approach from me. So that situation really kind of took me back. That I didn't know that was going to happen. It's not that I'm ashamed of my child or anything. It's just that why do I have to divulge about these things? And now you're looking at them different, opposed to me just coming to this. I pay the money, I do it. He start having a little bit of an outburst because we holding up. But all that to say is how I got over is I count. I'm doing this for him, and let's go forward. We went to the game, had a great time. He got his food, and it also helped me to help him go into crowds. So that was a test that him and I can do. So we've been to 3 football games, but it's things like that I think, for me, the challenge is not necessarily the child, it's the systems that are in place that don't have acceptance for our child, whether it's church, the grocery store. Sometimes that's the challenge. It's not the child, it's the people around. So sometimes I don't have some of the issues that maybe some people have, and sometimes a mother, because when they see a father with a child, is all of a sudden, oh, he's a good dad, or so some things go. But I do think when people see the child maybe having an episode, having problems adjusting with his sensory, that they don't know what to do. And I think that becomes the issue. And sometimes you just got to look within and push through.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so inspiring. Thank you. Thank you all so much. And I know we have like 5 minutes left. But I really want to hear from you guys, and just if someone can just share, how you are able to cope. What does self-care look like for you guys? We talk about that a lot, but I just want to hear, how do you guys take care of yourselves?
PlayStation. No. My
Whatever
wife is saying yes. No,
Whatever
man.
works.
Yo, look, I mean, honest, like once she goes to bed, I hop on my PlayStation and I do what, win whatever I need to win to feel good about something, whatever, or I'll write. I'll be on my laptop and I'll write. It's just you have to take selfish moments that doesn't involve the family. That doesn't cost the family anything, and doesn't involve the family. Sometimes you just gotta take selfish moments for yourself, because you need it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else?
So 2 things for me. I have this massage chair in my bedroom that my wife doesn't really care for because it's pretty big, but that's my little guilty pleasure, especially when the kids gone to sleep. I get in that chair, recline it all the way back. That's one. And secondly, I just go in the garage sometimes and just find stuff to tinker with. I'm a tinkerer, so something to break and fix. And that's I think how I definitely just unwind in my peace time.
Right. Anybody else? Joe, how do you cope?
Watching a game. I think that's a way to just escape and laugh and scream and cheer on a team or something. So I think that's what I do.
Okay. All right. Someone saying something?
I was gonna say, I guess with me, bike riding, but it also becomes something that's part of my son too, because I put a little wagon in. So the thing that was for me has become the thing for him. So I hit the belt line and just see the area, but bike riding has become, but also, not that I'm the oldest person on here, I know, but I done had a lot of fun before. So I think being a dad is my coping thing. So planning fun activity, that's my coping thing, is like doing fun things there, because I done did everything. Now, it's kind of like that's my fun thing. If is finding out what Lego thing we're gonna do, that's my fun thing. Or those are, if that makes sense. Like I don't necessarily have to have getting a haircut, cool, yeah, that's it. And talking with my barber and stuff like that. But really is doing stuff with my son. That's my coping thing. That's really it.
Wonderful. Ryan, want to share how you cope?
Yeah, I mean it's similar to what you were saying, is that I really try and do it with him, right? I will take moments for myself. It's moments, right? I do check out when we can, and like Marcel had said, it's your kids going sun up to sundown. So what do those moments look like? And if it's just those moments that you're taking for yourself, I certainly do that. Before, when times were hard, I found, alcohol to be real easy. I'm not advocating for that right now, but I'm just being honest. I certainly found that to deal when it was hard, and that wasn't the right move. But I will say that I do a lot of things in parallel with him to make sure that, one, especially when I travel, like if I need to take a moment, I'll bring him with me. I don't know what that does. I don't know if that's that dad moment, which, like you were saying, but there's a chill moment that I'll have with him, whether we're just going for a ride, driving past the lake, getting on the lake, or whatever that is. There's several moments I like to do with him on that, and that's mine. That's what I really enjoy. And and then also when I do get those moments outside of him, it's really spending time with JJ and our daughter Reese.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Well, we could go all evening, or at least for another 30 minutes talking, but unfortunately we have run out of time. What I would encourage each and every one of you to do, if you have any questions that you want me to reach out to these dads, and I can certainly share questions with them, just send an email to info@calculatedpathways.org, and I will get those questions to these dads and be able to respond back to you. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Your role is so important, and not just for fathers. There are a lot of single mothers out here, who are holding it down for their children. I was a single parent for a very long time. And so I had to rely on my brothers and my uncle and, just friends and male friends, especially with my boy. And so, those things are so important. But I just want to say you guys are so amazing. Thank you for all that you do. I know that life journeys gets challenges sometimes, but just thank you for holding it down and hanging in there. So again, thanks to each and every one of you for joining this panel discussion. We were so glad to be able to offer this panel discussion to the community. If you have any questions, if you need resources, reach out to Calculated Pathways. If you're a faith-based organization or your community is looking for more in ways to become more inclusive and accepting of those with autism and other disabilities, please reach out to Calculated Pathways at info@calculatedpathways.org. We'd be more than happy to come in and offer training. We just did one for Douglasville staff, and we'll be doing one coming up for one of the police departments in South Fulton. And so, just thank you all so much for all that you do, and thank you all for being part of this conversation on tonight. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.